Okay, hello. Today we're going to be talking about food and frequency. And we're going to be talking about some questions about food and about how often you do things. Okay, so this is part two, right? So we have some questions here. Our first question is starting off a question, how often? All right, so we have the phrase how often. So how often is asking you how many times you do something, okay? So if we look here, we can use these words, all right? We got all these words here in this pyramid. The first one is always. So always is going to be 100%, okay? So if you always go to school, that means you go to school on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You always go to school, okay? All right, our next word is usually. So usually will be 90% of the time. Okay, so something you do many times, but not always. All right, many times, but not always. All right, our next one, frequently. So frequently is something that you do many times, but not too many times. So for me, I frequently buy coffee. Okay, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, sometimes Saturdays and Sundays, I will buy coffee about 80% of the time. All right, another word, often. Okay, something you do often, right? Maybe often you play games on your phone, right? Or you often play computer games, or you often watch TV, right? So it's about 70% of the time. Our next word is sometimes. Okay, we know sometimes, right? So about sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't do it. So for me, I like to go running. So sometimes I run, sometimes I don't run. All right, our next word, occasionally. So occasionally is only about 30% of the time. So just a little bit, okay? Occasionally. So you could say, "Oh, I go to a friend's house occasionally." Okay? Only a little bit. Now, our next one is seldom. Okay? And seldom is only 10% of the time. So seldom is something that you don't do much at all. Okay, so seldom you could say, oh, I seldom go on vacation, right? We have to go to school and we're very busy. So maybe you go once a year, right? You seldom go. All right, our next word is rarely. So maybe if you know the word rare, you know the word rarely. So this is only 5% of the time. So rarely is something you only do maybe one time in a year, okay? So you could say, oh, I rarely see, what could we say? I rarely see a famous person on the street, right? I rarely see a soccer player, a famous soccer player walking around. It's very rare. And then our last word is never. Okay, so never is zero, right? So you could say, oh, teacher, I never go skydiving, or I never go scuba diving, right? Something that you never do. All right, so these are words that we can talk about or use to talk about how often we do things. Okay, so let's go to our next slide. Okay, our next slide is a question. How often do you eat in a restaurant? So we know restaurant, right? You told me your favorite restaurant. I want to know how often do you eat in a restaurant? So we can use this answer. Oh, I eat in at restaurants. So I sometimes eat at restaurants. I always eat at restaurants. Wow. So I have an example here. I occasionally eat at restaurants. So occasionally, only 30%. So I eat at home a lot, but only occasionally I go out and have a meal in a restaurant. Okay. Our next question, how often do you eat fast food? So we remember that fast food is things like McDonald's or pizza from Pizza Hut or chicken, right? Chicken is also fast food. So how often do you eat fast food? So for me, I seldom eat fast food. I don't eat much fast food. I usually cook at home, okay? So fast food. I often eat fast food. I never eat fast food, or I sometimes eat fast food. Think about how often do you eat fast food? Okay, our next question. How often do you cook? Okay, so cook we learned before. We do cooking in the kitchen, right? So how often do you cook? So for me, I sometimes cook. Okay, I sometimes cook. But my wife usually cooks. So I cook a little bit, my wife cooks a lot. Okay, so think how much or how often do you cook? Maybe cooking ramen. This is cooking. Okay, so how often do you cook? All right, our next question. How often do you eat spicy food? Okay, so spicy food we talked about before. So I sometimes eat spicy food. We live in Korea, so Korean food can be spicy. So I sometimes eat spicy food. If you like spicy food, maybe you always eat spicy food or frequently eat spicy food. So tell me, how often do you eat spicy food? All right. And our next question, how often do you eat rice? Okay. So for me, I sometimes eat rice. Here we go. Sometimes eat rice. I'm not Korean, so I don't eat rice every day. All right. So tell me, do you eat rice always or usually? Or maybe you don't like rice and you just never eat it. Okay. So tell me, when do you eat rice? Oh, we got a fly in here. Okay, let's go to our next question. Okay, our next question is, how often do you eat cereal? So cereal, I think you know what cereal is, right? So you got the bowl and you put the cereal in and you put some milk in there, right? So cereal. I like cereal and I often eat cereal. I wrote down here, I often eat cereal. So how often do you eat cereal? So use these words in the box and you can make many, many sentences using these adverbs of frequency. Okay? So please take a look at the homework, write down your sentences, and then I will take a look at them and check them, and we'll see you in the next video. All right. Then let's stop that. And let's pause that, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.